Harper Audio presents The Legs Are the Last to Go, written and read by Diahann Carroll. Copyright 2008 by Diahann Carroll. Production copyright 2008 by HarperCollins Publishers. Prologue. Stepping out senior style. It was a clear spring evening in New York not long ago, and I looked absolutely divine. I felt divine, too, as I stepped out of my hotel onto Central Park South. I was in town from my home in Los Angeles and had just made an appearance on a talk show with my dear old friend Harry Belafonte. Now I was on my way to a screening at the Tribeca Film Festival. I was feeling incredibly pleased with myself. My new coat, black Armani cut to fit perfectly, and I felt good in it. Well, in New York, your coat is your car, after all, so you have to have one that's just right for all the coming and going. Although now a Californian, I associate Manhattan with the best of everything. Saks Fifth Avenue, the Metropolitan Museum of Art, and Bergdorf Goodman were around the corner from my hotel. Le Cirque's latest incarnation, a resplendent and colorful room, was east of there. And just a stone's throw from me was the steadfast palatial plaza, where I had lived with Suzanne, my only child, in the early 1960s. I performed there in the Persian Room with a 14-piece orchestra. You see, long before I became television's first black actress, with her own sitcom, I was a performer in the musical theater and nightclub worlds, with my spiritual center on the stages of Broadway and in the high-end club venues of Manhattan. The Waldorf Astoria, for example. Less than 100 blocks to the north of my hotel stood the brownstone where I grew up, a child of hard-working Harlem parents who made me feel like a princess, even as they struggled to make ends meet. By middle age, I'd soared as far as a girl could possibly soar in a lifetime. I'd surpassed anything anyone in my life could have imagined. Born Carol Diane Johnson, I was a proud graduate of the High School of Music and Art, who went on to break more than a few race barriers in her time and more than a few sound barriers while racing around the globe. Here's the short list. After appearing on Arthur Godfrey's radio show while still in high school, I ended up singing at the Latin Quarter by the time I was 18, and everywhere else from the Catskills to Las Vegas. At 19, I was in my first movie, Carmen Jones, with Pearl Bailey and Dorothy Dandridge. Not long after that, I was the young lady lip-syncing Summertime in the movie version of Porgy and Bess, and that's where I first met Sidney Poitier and started a treacherous 9-year affair. I destroyed my first and most important marriage to Monty Kaye, the father of my only child. Other movie roles followed at a young age, including one in Hurry Sundown with Jane Fonda, Faye Dunaway, and Michael Caine, and then Paris Blues with Paul Newman, Sidney Poitier, and Joanne Woodward. On Broadway as early as 1954, Truman Capote and Harold Arlen had cast me as the ingenue in their Broadway show, House of Flowers. And in 1962, Richard Rodgers wrote a musical for me called No Strings, in which I played a fashion model in the interracial romance. I won the Tony. But there was to be more. In 1968, the network summoned, and I became NBC's Julia, the first sitcom about a black character. I had my own television variety show a few years later. It was called, well, what else? The Diahann Carroll Show. I appeared in every television special imaginable during the years when such things existed, including one in which Sammy Davis Jr. and I sang together in a tribute to Richard Rodgers that felt like a racial milestone to me. I starred opposite James Earl Jones as a poor Harlem single mother in a movie called Claudine, and played a well-intentioned stepmother in Roots, The Next Generations. I even found my way back to Broadway as a psychiatrist in Agnes of God, and all the while, even when others might have allowed themselves
Sample complete. Ready to continue?